everyone, hope you're doing well. I hope you are enjoying the new updates in War Thunder. I've already ground out the ME264, and I've also grinding out, I should say, the Yak 3U. One of the things I'm really happy about is that there are pretty much a vehicle in each nation that I can actually grind out, which isn't top tier, and actually have some fun with in this update. I think that's a great change from previous ones. But today, I want to talk about some abuse of power and also about why this matters, because it seems like a lot of people have this idea in their head that this is dramatizing a situation. No, this isn't trying to create drama or dramatizing a situation. It is showing an issue with an existing system and what I would like to see fixed in it. Over the last year to 2 years, a lot of people have come to me with issues that they've had with the moderation team in War Thunder, and understand that the majority of the moderators on the War Thunder Live site and also the War Thunder forum are volunteer moderators. So just understand the majority are not salaried, they are not Gaijin employees, they are volunteers. And it seems like the majority of problems that have been brought to my doorstep when it comes to talking about these issues are because of certain volunteers that they've interacted with. And what happens in every situation is there is a disagreement between an individual and a moderator. A moderator starts policing said opinions and then either outright bans the individual for what they say, or because of the disagreement, the posts get hidden away from the general public to make sure that it can't be seen. And this is done under the guise of some very abusive, subjective rules. And this is where I come in, because I wanted to see how far you could push this system, and I also wanted to see if they would live up to their own standards. One of the things as a, human that I'm interested in is if there is a system that is there, I want to see the powers who run that system to adhere to the same rules. The reason for this is because if they don't, what you end up in is a two-tiered society where you have some who have and some who have not, some who are able to abuse a system and others who are not. And one thing that we're seeing in this world is we are starting once again to get to that society after leaving it behind when we left basically this monarchical idea behind. The whole point of democracy and the whole point of giving every individual a voice was to make sure to keep people in power in check. But unfortunately, it's going the other way once again. And it's happening in small areas such as here, and it's happening in other areas such as, politics. And the issue I'm seeing is people are creating very arbitrary and very subjective rules around things so they can expand upon them at their whim and their opinion to be able to ban individuals to get rid of them. And this is something we've seen in pretty much every walk of life, and today we're going to talk about it in War Thunder. The rules set out by Gaijin, if you go to their War Thunder rules page, or when it comes to their terms of service, when it talks about using their products, when it comes to the War Thunder Live or forum, basically the discussion channels, is incredibly arbitrary and is massively designed to give all of the power to the moderators to, if they want to shut you up, you are shut up, right? It is as simple as that. And so therefore, you have a two-tiered system. The fact that 2 of my posts on the War Thunder Live page have been hidden for the reason of discussing the moderators should show you that there is an arbitrary system which has been set up here to protect a select group of individuals who also hold the power. And for me, I'm personally not okay with this. I much prefer open dialogue. I much prefer, instead of people going to direct message, to actually put their thoughts in the open. And instead of censoring, how about we have discussions about specific topics? Which is why, because of the decisions that I've personally made and what I've asked for, instead of providing what I've asked for, which is a simple solution to the problem, they have decided to hide all of the posts and therefore censoring the opinions that I have about myself, and therefore I have to move on from this site. The War Thunder Live and the War Thunder Forum are, at this point, if nothing has changed, completely dead to me. I'm not interested in dealing with a place which has set up in its own rules a two-tiered system. That is not what I'm about, that is never what I will be about, and therefore I will just leave the site. You may ask what sparked this. Well, first of all, it was the fact that Nomad had made a post, which you can see a few days ago in the Weebs and Censorship video, which was completely designed around the individual. It was completely designed in a way to protect an individual against everything else. A perceived insult or a perceived aggression was something that was said in the post, and it's very interesting that he decided to delete that post and change it to get rid of those specific words. And therefore, he actually confirmed to me that the meaning of the post stayed the same. Therefore, I ran with it. The idea that, as an individual, I can perceive anything that I want from the words of specific community members. Therefore, I can perceive my own fear. Therefore, I am in an unsafe place. Now, what is the wonderful thing about hidden posts is you can still see everything. You can still see all of the comments on them. People just can't see them from the outside. So let's talk about what triggered this, because it is very fun to me to make people live up to their own standards. If I am being told by what is classed as a super moderator on War Thunder Live, which is the head of the team on War Thunder Live specifically, that I can have a perceived slight towards me, therefore I can demand either an apology or a way to be able to deal with the system by myself through moderation, I am going to take it. Pacifica specifically called me a liar. Pacifica is a super moderator. I made calls to publicly apologize for the actions of the individual. And the reason for this is to see if they would stick to their own rules, if they could be held accountable in the same way that they hold everybody else accountable on a daily basis. And the answer is no. There was no public apology. There was no reason given for Pacifica's accusations, let's say. And it just shows to me completely that this is, as I said, a two-tiered system. The issue here, the fact that you have rules set up that you cannot discuss moderation. I'm not really too bothered about the politics one. The reason why it was hidden for politics instead of discussing the moderators is kind of interesting, though. I'm guessing they couldn't find a ridiculous reason for these two, because I wasn't actually discussing politics in this video. I was discussing hate speech laws, which you could say are tied to politics, but they are not politics in itself. But the whole point of this exercise was to see if the rules that were laid out by Commander Nomad would be applied to everyone on an equal basis. And if that is the case, if that is seen to happen, then we can all go away understanding that we are all on equal footing when it comes to the rules. Unfortunately, that's not the case, because there was no public apology. There was no public change in stance when it came to anything. So therefore, the subjectivity stands, and instead, what I was told to do by another moderator who had been sent out to talk to me in the form of Grant2511 was to go into private conversations with the moderators. Now, This is the interesting part of the whole thing. And this is why I hate the system which has been created here. What you find in all of these situations, when it comes to abuses of power, you will find moderators who will want to move the conversation away from where it is happening to another place. And the reason for this is because they can completely control that area, and they can control what is said in that area. This is why a lot of them stay away from direct messages, especially on places like Discord. Some of them don't, some of them do. Others stay away from other communities because they know they don't have the same power. We had an issue where a War Thunder moderator realized that the Tech Hub was not the same place as War Thunder Live, and he was not able to control people's opinions. Therefore, he decided to leave. This is a fact of the matter, and this is why we've made sure on the Tech Hub that there is no cross between the team that is on there and is setting up everything there, and the moderators that you have on site in War Thunder. And there will never be a crossover because of this fact. We do not agree with the way that Gaijin handles these things. I understand, and we understand why they do it, because it gives you a blanket way of getting rid of people that you don't like. And that is fine if you want to set up like that, but please be honest about it instead of this, we are trying to keep the community safe. Me, as an individual, a community member in your community, is made unsafe by one of your moderators. Therefore, because of that, I demand a public apology. And if you don't give me that public apology, I will not feel safe. It is as simple as that. All you had to do was say sorry. But instead, you decided to censor, and you decided to put me, or try and put me, in a private place. So let's talk about, once again, that private place. So as I said, it's much easier for an individual to take you away from the situation and deal with you in a direct message fashion. The reason why they do this is twofold. The first one, I've already noted, takes you away from the conversation, lets it die down. The second one is because they can completely control that conversation. If you've read the rules around conversations that can be had via DM on the War Thunder forum, if you share them anywhere else, you can be banned from the forum. So therefore, they have complete control over what is done there, which is why, in my opinion, it is an unjust place to try and seek reconciliation. One of the things that has to be done is you have to be able to hold moderators accountable for the decisions that they make. You have to make sure to understand why they make these decisions, and you have to make sure that it is clear to community members why moderators do what they do. Otherwise, you have complete untrust in the system. And by creating a system which is completely designed to keep your conversations private and make sure that you cannot release them to the public, is not the sign of anything just in my head. If I am told that in order to get something sorted, I have to be in a private setting and not be able to ever talk about that after it has been solved, I'm not interested, especially when it comes to gaming and especially when it comes to moderator abuse. If it's in DMs, fair enough, that stuff should be kept private. But if we are discussing an issue which relates to the public good or relates to abuses of moderator power, I don't want to put myself in a situation giving you all of the control. And as a last point, I do want to push this idea. All Pacifica had to do was to live by his standards that he has deemed correct. Just like Nomad, just like the rest of the moderators. All he had to do was say, I'm sorry if you feel aggressed upon. or if you feel abused. That was not my intention. It is not hard to do, but when you have an ego, and when you don't want to bow, and when you, instead of serving the community, serve yourself, it is one of the hardest things to do, which is why you have to be able to hold these people to these ideals. So once again, thanks for proving that this is a two-tier system. Thanks for proving that the system that has been created is unjust for the individual. And thanks for proving all of those people who have come to me over the last few years that they were right. And luckily nowadays, we have other places where people can talk. The Reddit, the Steam pages, various Discords, and then there's TeamSpeaks. Thank God they can get away from this type of moderation. Because it is not healthy for a community to not be able to talk about issues, especially when it relates to the people in power. As I said, all you had to do was say sorry. But you couldn't do it, and you couldn't stand with your own ideals. Have a nice day. I'd just like to thank B. Young, Blackie, Cyborg James, Daniel Stanton, John Ryman, Martinez, Matati, Moxie, Nito, Nick Graham, Alobralo, Sebastian Corona, Super Cacti, and Elove Goat and Seductive Trash Can for supporting the channel.